At the family banquet, Miguel once again proposed to postpone our wedding date. Shen's mother, who had always supported me, surprisingly didn't get angry. She just sighed and turned to Shen's father and said, "Let's get a divorce." Shen's father was so shocked that it took him a long time to come to his senses. "He's not getting married. Why should I get a divorce?" Shen's mother's gaze swept over me. The present, and the past, triggered by the scene, bring back memories. There were only 3 months left until Miguel's and my wedding. But at breakfast, Miguel proposed a postponement again. Before I could object, Shen's mother put down her bowl and chopsticks and said unhappily, "When you graduated, you said you wanted to wait until you got familiar with the company. After you got a handle on the company, you wanted to wait until the overseas project was completed. Now what's your reason? You two are almost 30. Seeing the look Miguel gave me, I hurriedly lowered my head, afraid to see the mockery in his eyes. Miguel was silent. Shen's father came out to smooth things over. I looked up at Shen's mother's expression. Shen's mother's gaze was calm. She slowly let out a breath. "Let's get a divorce." Shen's father was picking up dishes while saying with a smile, "My son hasn't gotten married yet. Where does divorce come from?" Shen's mother calmly stood up. "I'm talking about me and you. Let's get a divorce." The voices in the study didn't avoid us. Miguel and I sat facing each other like in a negotiation. "Mariam, we've been married for almost 30 years. What can't be overcome?" Shen's father, who was usually peaceful, was surprised and his voice was 3 decibels louder. Shen's mother just replied calmly, "I saw the cup of milk tea that Jianchuan brought to Zania." "What milk tea?" I looked at the cup of milk tea on the coffee table, but no one had touched and thought of what happened in the afternoon when I asked Miguel to bring me the co-branded milk tea. I also specifically searched for the distance between the milk tea shop and the place where he was having a meeting. Seeing that it was only a 4-minute walk, I sent the screenshot. "Jianchuan, bring me this cup of milk tea on your way back. The badge I want is only available at this store." Playful grimace. After more than an hour, Miguel replied, But when he came back, what he was holding was not the brand I wanted. Seeing me just looking at it, and not taking it, he patiently explained, "I was in a hurry and forgot. I bought it on the way. Don't you want to drink it? What I want is not milk tea. It's the badge." Miguel was a little impatient. He put down the milk tea and took out his phone. "What kind of crappy badge? Just buy one with money." Looking at him frowning and swiping up and down on his phone, I suddenly felt it was so meaningless. Chasing after Miguel for almost 10 years. So meaningless. My thoughts drifted back to my head following the voices from the study. Just getting angry over a cup of milk tea. "You women are really unreasonable." Miguel looked at me. His voice was cold. "Will you also make such a big fuss over such an insignificant matter?" Lying in bed tossing and turning, all that was left in my mind was Shen's mother's last sentence. "Tomorrow I will draft a divorce statement." Shen's mother has always been calm and strong in my heart. When she was young, she started a business with Shen's father and had an iron fist. After giving birth to Miguel, she took care of him wholeheartedly and attended to every detail. In my opinion, Shen's mother is largely responsible for Miguel's excellence and the stability of the Shen family. Why leave at this time? I gave a bitter smile. Still worrying about others? Isn't the one who should be worried the most supposed to be myself? If Shen's mother gets divorced, the only ally in the Shen family who supports Miguel's and my marriage will be gone. Shen's father is on the sidelines. If Miguel brings a girl back, I'm afraid I will be kicked out the next day. After all, the relationship between Miguel and me is not even that of boyfriend and girlfriend. I was the daughter-in-law chosen by Shen's mother, and was brought to the Shen family for cultivation when I was in college. Miguel and I are alumni of the same year. My tutor introduced me to Shen's mother. In the time of a meal, I was thoroughly understood, the only son of the Shen family. No consideration for marriage alliances. What Miguel needs is a partner with the aura of a prestigious school and is good-looking enough. Excellent. But not a partner who is more excellent than Miguel. Preferably without many connections. In this way, Harry's good genes for passing on the family line and won't be too strong-willed and out of control. So, I appeared. Once upon a time. I was also proud and arrogant in my youth. Tsinghua University brought endless dreams to my life. But it was only after my father fell seriously ill that I understood what it means to be desperate, and what it means that money can buy life. The 30,000 yuan per day for the ICU crushed my dreams for the future. When I learned that the tuition fees for so many years also came from the sponsorship of the Shen family, I truly wanted to hold on to this big tree from the bottom of my heart. Moreover, it is very easy to fall in love with Miguel. He has good grades, is tall, and is also handsome. He is still shining brightly in the talent-filled Tsinghua University. The kind of strategizing of a rich kid is something that ordinary people can't learn even if they want to. At that time, I was not yet the daughter-in-law chosen by a wealthy family. I was in the economics club with Miguel. During a team-building hiking trip, the club president temporarily changed to a more difficult route that no one had walked before. Just in time for a rainstorm. The mountain was slippery. I accidentally got separated from the team. There was no signal on my phone, and the flashlight was nowhere to be found. I sprained my foot and cried desperately facing the increasingly dark sky. It was Miguel who found me and carried me down the mountain on his back, lying on his warm back and listening to his strong heartbeat. At that time, I really liked him. After that, we met at the Shen family in the awkward identity of a new century-old marriage contract. Miguel didn't have anyone he liked. But he didn't like me either. From rejecting me to accepting me, it only took one night. A little bit of ambiguity between us because of that rainy night also disappeared completely. I always stood in the crowd and watched him play basketball, spirited lie and debate passionately. My ears were filled with the girls' unrestrained confessions. Miguel would hold my hand every time to claim his sovereignty. But after the girls left, he would quickly let go, holding the budding love in my heart. I learned management according to the appearance of the Shen family's daughter-in-law. I started as an employee and followed along on projects. Both my tutor and classmates were generous with their praise. Later, even Shen's mother, who was always strict, nodded. When I won my first project at the Shen family's company after graduating, Shen's mother proposed marriage for the first time. I looked at Miguel expectantly, but he just turned his face and refused. At 23, I thought it might not be enough yet. But later, after thinking about it for a long time, Miguel never confessed to me. Someone once said that a relationship that starts ambiguously will always end unclearly. It came true. After Shen's mother finished talking about the division of divorce property with Shen's father, she left. Before leaving, Shen's mother opened her mouth as if to say something to me but said nothing. The atmosphere in the Shen family suddenly became extremely awkward. A 60-year-old director who just got divorced. A wealthy president who is dissatisfied with the marriage contract. And me, an outsider with only an empty title. I thought I might have to leave too. But it's not easy to find a house in Fengcheng. I swiped my phone for a long time before finally admitting that I was reluctant to leave. Since Miguel didn't say for me to leave, I shamelessly continued to stay. I originally thought that the lifeless atmosphere in the Shen family was caused by the overly serious mother. When Shen's mother really left, I realized that the father and son of the Shen family were like a pool of stagnant water. It's not easy for Shen's mother to create ripples in the father and son. Miguel took over Shen's father's business. The old and new generations of the Shen family had different opinions. As long as they had a meal together, they would definitely end up in an argument. With Shen's mother gone, I knew I had no right to mediate. I could only let them do their own things. In less than a week, Shen's father called Shen's mother first. Listening to the beeping sound of the phone, it was hard to connect it with the old man who had been yelling that he didn't want to see her a few days ago. Mariam, where is my antihypertensive medicine? Where are you? Home. The ones at home are in the second drawer on the right side of the bedside. The ones in the car are in the middle compartment. The ones at the company are with Secretarial U. Hello? Is there anything else? No. Thank you. Shen's mother hung up the phone neatly. Shen's father stared at his phone for a long time in a daze. The father and son of the Shen family were aloof and indifferent. Shen's mother, like me, took care of them by following behind. Perhaps it's the companionship of a couple in old age. Shen's mother and Shen's father had a lot more tacit understanding and cherishing than Miguel and I. I just don't know if these were exchanged for Shen's mother's daily heartache and disappointment, and her nightly grievances and tears. Ding! Shen's father quickly opened the voice message and accidentally pressed it to be on speaker. Joven Ni. We've already divorced. You guys pack up your things. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. At this time, Miguel also started complaining to Shen's mother. For the first time, I saw him look a little childish. He told his mother about his father's autocracy and ability to communicate. No matter what he did, he couldn't get recognition. He talked for a long time, but there was no reply from the other end. Hello? Mom? Are you still listening? You're not a child anymore. Do you still need me to teach you how to communicate with people? After saying that, she hung up the phone. Yes, in the past, when Miguel and his father had different opinions, in the end, Shen's mother would always come up with a compromise solution. Even if one side had to be chosen, Shen's mother would persuade the other side. Sometimes I admired Shen's mother for being able to walk between these two aloof gods. But what did Miguel say about Shen's mother before? Mom, I know what's going on with my own marriage. For so many years, you haven't gone out to work. You can't see how much pressure we are under. Don't always argue with Dad. He's so busy. Isn't it normal to forget a little thing? All right, Mom. I can grasp the key points of this plan. You don't need to worry. But why are their father and son's matters big matters while women's matters are small matters? Is the definition of big and small matters decided by men? Shen's mother blacklisted the father and son. When they found that they couldn't contact Shen's mother no matter what method they used, they began to panic. With no one to restrain him, Shen's father went fishing early in the morning and late at night every day. He almost missed an important company meeting. He loved greasy food and didn't like vegetables. He was diagnosed with moderate fatty liver. He took antihypertensive medicine as a supplement. Miguel could only frown when he saw this. The father and son were either sarcastic or slamming doors and throwing bowls at home. Miguel couldn't find peace at home. At the company, he was also in a bad mood. In order to prove himself and make his father look at him with admiration, he led the project team to work overtime. For a while, there were complaints everywhere. In fact, Miguel didn't notice that every plan that had been pointed out by Shen's mother contained Shen's mother's unique insights. She focused not only on the brand's tone, but also on a lot of warm meanings and human touches. Even for a leading big brand in the industry. Even if it is in the lead in pursuing benefits. As long as it has users in mind, the effect will be magnified 100-fold. How could President Shen Na, who never cares about others, understand? Some bold employees came to me to complain. What's wrong with the president recently? Why is he so angry? We've been working overtime for 6 days in a row. We can't take it anymore. I turned to look at Miguel, who was in a state of anxiety because of the poor data. I couldn't help but admire Shen's mother's planning for the Shen family from the bottom of my heart. She knew her son's personality and used me to fill the gap that he lacked. Just like what she did before. But it seems that she succeeded. But it also seems that she failed. She spent most of her life completing the filling for Shen's father, establishing the Shen family at an incomparable position, and passing the task on to me. But after all, Miguel and I haven't gotten married yet. And they're great. So why couldn't she endure it all of a sudden? Was it that the boomerang of youth suddenly hit the middle of the brow? And decades of grievances poured down in one day? And she could no longer comfort herself? Was it the milk tea that was missed in youth? Or the unrecognized? Was it being passers-by in marriage to each other? Or the bitterness of being respectful as guests? Do I have to spend decades guarding such a man like this? Miguel is like a lofty god, standing on a peak that others could reach in 3 lifetimes and looking down at me, watching me climb up step by step to reach him. But even if he responds occasionally, it is also out of reach for others. Is that all? I shook my head with a bitter smile at the employees. What can a hard-working person do? The father and son didn't know that I could see Shen's mother's moments. It was a Shen's mother I had never seen before. No, it was the appearance of Mariam, laughing heartily with people on the train to Xinjiang, sharing food without restraint and learning Uyghur. Slowly, from the cold city to the natural scenery where the water and the sky merge. The scenery in front determines the wilderness in the heart. Being in the cubicles of high-rise buildings, it is impossible to feel the wind from the grasslands and the starry sea in the desert. I think Mariam must be peaceful at this moment. There are so many beautiful restaurants in Urukmi. She holds a lamb leg as big as a forearm and smiles freely at the camera. She can't wait to wear a different ethnic shawl every day. Looking at the green rivers and lakes in Kaunas. Looking up is the cloudless blue sky. The peaks are green and the sea of clouds is vast. Grasslands, snow-clad mountains, deserts, rivers, blue skies, cattle and sheep, eagles. I saw Mariam, who was usually serious, dancing Xinjiang dance freely with a red scarf around her in the bonfire. I didn't know she danced so well. Through the screen, I just felt that her life was truly blooming at this moment. She checked in at the popular grassland and waved cheerfully at the camera while riding a horse. She said, "I thought that after breaking free from confinement, there would be a bottomless abyss and I would be smashed to pieces. Therefore, I was timid. Little did I know that behind confinement is the vast sea and sky and the vast galaxy. No wonder there are always people who are afraid that you won't be disciplined and unrestrained. Freedom is a gift of life. Life must bloom in the wilderness, without being unfettered. There is no deprivation. Without deprivation, who can enjoy?" After returning from Xinjiang, Mariam joined a drum club and formed her own band. The woman in the camera and nodding to the dynamic rhythm, and playing the drums while biting her lip is hard to be associated with Shen's mother, who used to educate me to strive for the best with a straight face. It took her only a month from practice to performing on stage. The deafening applause and cheers heralded her success. As I watched her look around the audience with tears in her eyes, I suddenly remembered that my life seemed to always be in the audience. Watching Miguel step onto the stage and applauding for him. What about me? Can I do it too? Mariam bought a small house with a yard, made a swing by herself, and planted flowers. Soon, a fluffy little dog appeared in her moments. It is a young German shepherd. I didn't expect her to keep a dog. After all, in the concepts she had passed on to me in the past, whether it is meaningful, and whether there is a return is the first consideration. Having children is a must. And raising pets, which takes energy and has no visible return, is the most unnecessary investment. But when she rolled around with the little dog regardless of her image, I couldn't help but suspect that she was lying to me at that time. When Miguel rushed into my room holding his phone, I guiltily closed my phone and forgot to scold him for not knocking on the door. Fortunately, Miguel had something on his mind and didn't notice at all. "Quick, Shania, come with me. I found my mom." I didn't show it on my face and changed my clothes and followed. Unexpectedly, Shen's father, who was busy with everything every day, also came. I hesitated whether to send a message to Mariam. Miguel excitedly held my hand and chattered nonstop about how to persuade his mother to go home later. I was suspicious in my heart and didn't send a message for a while. When the three of us didn't dare to knock on the door and stood at the door like puppets, the door opened from the inside, and a black coal-like head squeezed out. Seeing someone outside, it immediately stared at us vigilantly. At such a young age, it already has the appearance of a guard dog. I looked at Miguel and the dog confronting each other with amusement. A dog was standing in the position where a son should guard his mother. I wonder how Miguel felt. Mariam heard the sound and carried the dog out. She was stunned when she saw us. I subconsciously wanted to shake my head. But it was actually not necessary. If I wanted to say it, I would have said it long ago. Moreover, I didn't have the location of Mariam's new home. It must have been found by their father and son. The three of us squeezed awkwardly on the double sofa. The little dog kept sniffing our feet. For a while, no one spoke. Mariam brought over the self-made flower tea. The taste was fragrant and sweet when entering the mouth, perhaps influenced by the flowers outside the door. Although Shen's father and son didn't like sweet things, they still drank it all. Well, Shen's father broke the silence first. My son misses you. He brought me here to find you. Miguel immediately jumped up. Obviously you have found out where Mom is and brought me here. Mariam and I watched them calmly and smiled at each other. When Shen's father saw Mariam smile, he quickly moved closer to please her. But he was pushed back by the little dog. Peanut. Mariam gave Shen's father a cold face. What's wrong with you, father and son? Is the legal department of the company not clear enough? Don't you understand what divorce is? Divorce means that two people draw a clear line and will never have any intersection again. It's still that your son misses me. Your son hasn't been close to me since he was 7 years old. He has always wanted your white moonlight to be his mother. Who is to blame for this? I watched Miguel lower his head in frustration. I thought of what he had said to me in his heart after getting drunk. He said that since he started school, his mother had always had a straight face. Strictly following the schedule was like a robot without temperature. In addition to the knowledge in textbooks, he also had to learn piano, swimming, watch the news and listen to finance every day. He could only eat nutritious meals every day and absolutely could not eat junk food. His father was busy with company operations. Every time they met, it was like taking an exam. He felt that his life was like a series of levels. Only passing through all levels was the ultimate meaning. At that time, he knew that his father had someone outside. It was a girl younger than his mother who could doctor racing cars and play the cello. He knew he was sorry for his mother but couldn't resist the temptation of the outside world. He followed his father and dated that girl. He ate ice cream and fried chicken that his mother didn't allow. He chased speed and excitement in go-karts. Later, he began to be addicted to games and quickly degenerated. Shen's father cheated. But he knew that his son was the most important. He quickly confessed to Mariam and settled down. It too accompanied Miguel through his adolescence until he graduated from high school. I don't know if it was the sudden blow from her husband, or the more worrying degeneration of her son. When Mariam turned around to struggle with the cheating incident, the father and son both felt that it was a minor matter that had passed. They watched Mariam struggle and consume herself coldly and finally fell silent. Having seen the brilliant Mariam like a pomegranate flower, I really wanted to slap these two father and son in front of me. In the end, it was the security guard who came to drive us away. Mainly because their father and son refused to leave. Some nosy neighbors asked Mariam what the relationship was behind our backs. Mariam shouted loudly. A cheating ex-husband, and an old son who was clamoring for a new mother. The neighbor gave us a blank look. What about that girl? Mariam's voice was faint. That's my girl. She's a good kid. Shen's father began to stare out of the window for a long time. Sometimes he would flip through old photos and tell me and Miguel stories from the past. Mariam liked taking photos very much when she was young. She and Shen's father left a thick photo album. From their dating on the park bench when they fell in love, to the smiling eyes when they got married. On the first day, when the company was listed. And when Miguel was born. When Shen's father talked excitedly. He even shed tears. Miguel changed from indifference at the beginning to being touched later. After stammering several times, he finally asked that sentence. Then why did you still cheat? Shen's father looked up blankly. His hand trembled as he stroked Mariam's young cheek. I haven't seen Mariam smile for a long time. I watched as she smiled like your mother. So I always looked for her. We didn't do anything wrong. But, alas, after all, it's still wrong. I really couldn't help it. I snorted coldly, feeling guilty and compensating for whoever you feel sorry for. I've never heard of being sorry for your wife and compensating your lover. Miguel gently pushed me. I turned my face away and didn't look at him. Shen's father didn't care. He sighed and reached out and patted Miguel on the shoulder. I did wrong. So I regret it deeply. But you are still young. Don't be like me. When I came out of the Shen family, I was still immersed in Shen's father's words that if you love each other, don't miss it. When I met Miguel's affectionate eyes, what surged in my heart was not joy but hesitation. Miguel's eyes looking at me were as cold as when looking at others. And most of his eyes were not on me. Since I got the milk tea that didn't suit my taste and until Mariam proposed divorce, I wavered. In nearly 10 years of chasing, what filled my heart now was grievance. I hadn't had time to tell Miguel that I had found a house and was ready to move out. Because now it has been more than a month since the wedding date he proposed last time. When Miguel noticed that there were fewer of my things at home, I was almost done moving except for one box of clothes. Now being able to easily escape his eyes is also thanks to his neglect of me all these years. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel a bitterness in my heart. Are you going on a business trip recently? Miguel stopped me who was pushing the suitcase. How come I don't remember that there is an assignment for overseas dispatch in the company? He frowned and tried hard to think. I pushed his hand away without a trace and walked out. No. I'm preparing to move out. Miguel almost jumped up and stopped in front of me when he heard this. What do you mean? Are you breaking up with me? We are about to get married. What are you fussing about? I raised my eyes and looked calmly at the man whose brows were almost twisted with ink. Miguel. When did you confess to me? When did I promise to be your girlfriend? Moreover, it has been a month since the wedding date you mentioned last time to your mother. In the gap when Miguel was stunned and in a daze, I pushed him away and walked out. I can't stay in the Shen family anymore. After thinking for a long time, I decided to find partners and open a studio by myself. After staying in the Shen family for so long, I think I can also practice with the cooperation of those small companies that they look down upon. I was so busy that I thought leaving Miguel wasn't as difficult as I thought. But when I saw the familiar figure leaning against the car downstairs of my rented apartment, I almost couldn't even breathe. Under the dim streetlight, the elongated shadow flickered with a little red light. When did Miguel learn to smoke? I hid myself in the darkness and hurriedly walked past him. Johnny, the slightly hoarse male voice came to me with the wind. He hurriedly grabbed me. Johnny, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. You know that my parents have always had this kind of relationship. I don't know how to face you. Can you not leave me? For a moment, I was stunned on the spot. By the streetlight, I saw Miguel with a scruffy beard, bloodshot eyes, his tie knot pulled to one side, and his suit was a bit messy. He looked like he hadn't rested well. There was no touch in my heart. Miguel has always been neat and perfect like a dummy. Now looking like this. Could it be because of me? But I really didn't know how to face him. I pushed him away and ran back home. When I finished washing and lifted the curtain to look out of the window, Miguel's car was still parked downstairs. In my phone was his goodnight message. With mixed emotions, I looked through the chat records between Miguel and me. Since college. For business. I have been urging Miguel to eat well with the task given to me by Shen's mother. For personal reasons, I would send Miguel everything new I saw. Kittens on the side of the road. Classmates who were caught skipping public classes. Delicious dishes. After working. The company's afternoon tea. The cookies I baked myself. Difficult projects. Colleagues who stab in the back. There were large patches of green everywhere and sporadic and short white replies. Okay. I know. Scrolling down, there were the messages he sent recently. Sharing the meals he ate. Asking me about the matching of clothes and ties. Sharing the project features he thought of. And the setting sun he saw. Although they were still words without emotional decoration. Compared with before, one could see many differences. He said he didn't know how to love. But when I really left and he really felt the loss, wasn't he very capable? Then what about all the cold treatment and nameless following I received before? If it weren't for Mariam's divorce, maybe I wouldn't have understood it now. The Shen family is a business empire built on the sacrifice of women. Strong emotions are left for the careers that bring them a sense of accomplishment. Neglect and indifference are left for families that they don't want to bother to manage. People like them don't love their wives enough, and don't love their children enough either. People who only know how to cherish when they lose don't deserve to mention love. After all, I don't want to live a life like Mariam's. I hesitated for a long time and made an appointment with Mariam. She invited me to her home. When I went to her house with carefully selected dinner plates, Peanut, who was half a person tall, almost knocked me down. Mariam, with her newly permed chestnut curly hair, warmly welcomed me in with freshly baked lemon cake. The fragrance of lemon made me couldn't help looking into the kitchen. Want to eat it? Mariam blinked and looked at me. Without waiting for me to nod, she took out the cut cake from behind. There were also mint leaves and mango cubes on it. Help me try it. It's a new product I designed. Under the gaze of two pairs of shining eyes, I took a bite of the cake. Sweet and sour without being greasy. Delicious. Seeing me nod affirmatively, Mariam happily clapped her hands. I didn't know how to start and date the cake in silence. Mariam stroked her curly hair and sat down next to me. There was a faint floral fragrance lingering around her nose. Are you hesitating? Mariam looked ahead and said. The father and son are always good at acting remorseful. Seeing me silent, Mariam continued. Before I married Miguel's father, I was like what you see now. Later, there was a problem with the family business. I was forced by my parents to marry him. At that time, he also had someone else in his heart. He also resisted. But later he still compromised. I turned my head and looked at Mariam, lowering her eyes and giving a wry smile. I am the only daughter of my parents. I also want to live a good life. I knew it after giving birth to Miguel. I taught wholeheartedly. But he still grew up with the same temperament as his father. Cold, aloof, and self-centered, having guarded to icebergs for decades. I almost forgot the days before. I was touched and hesitated to ask. Then why did you choose me? Mariam gave a pale smile. Maybe after being assimilated for a long time, I really regarded myself as the housekeeper and old maid of their father and son. I was in the abyss and almost pulled you into the abyss. It's not just because of that cup of milk tea. It's my emotional needs that have been ignored. It's my personal value that has been ignored. It's my child who said that I am stubbornly dogmatic and boring and disgusting. It's when I saw you with my own eyes. My heart is depressed and my life is dim. Mariam took my hand and smiled. Look at us. After marrying the president, one loses one's own name and becomes Mrs. Shen's mother. Who still remembers that my name is Mariam and your name is Jania? Speaking of which, I really have to apologize to you. After all, the life you struggled out of for more than 10 years shouldn't be just to become someone's wife. I was selfish. I quickly shook my head and held Mariam's hand. It's because I want to thank you for your sponsorship to let me study. And I also want to thank you for helping when my father was critically ill. Before I could finish speaking, I was interrupted by a sudden and urgent knock on the door. When I opened the door, Miguel was standing outside. Why are you here? I know you don't want to see me now. But after such a long time you and Mom are not at home. I really know I was wrong. The house is empty. It really won't do without you guys. So, is it because you are lonely and have no one to take care of you that you think of me? Miguel panicked. No. It's because I have always lived according to the established model of an heir. It's because I didn't put us in an equal relationship from the beginning. It's because I restricted you in a fixed way. But I know I was wrong. After all these days, I really understand what is out of control and what is loss. It's because I didn't know how to cherish. I foolishly thought that you would always be by my side like my mother. Now even my mother can abandon me. What else can I be so confident about? For the first time, Miguel broke down like a child in front of me. I lowered my head and looked at his shoulders constantly shaking as he squatted on the ground. Looking back, I saw Mariam, who was also in tears. None of us are wrong from our own positions. Love itself has no right or wrong. I seemed to know my decision. Mariam's slightly trembling hand revealed her emotions. No one would not love their own child. Mariam stabilized her emotions and said, "The reason why I resolutely divorced cannot be completely attributed to my husband's cheating and my son's estrangement. After all, from the beginning, it was I who abandoned myself and voluntarily stepped into this relationship. But child, you are different. You still have a choice now. And Miguel is not exactly the same as her father, who made a mistake. Some people are born with the correct template. But some people see the wrong answers and are willing to correct their behaviors. I know you are conflicted. Why not think about what kind of person you want to be at this moment? If Miguel is your final answer, then he will eventually appear on the path you choose." Looking at Mariam, who had taken care of me for nearly 10 years, I sniffed and shrank into her arms. "Mariam, can I call you Mom?" Mariam patted my back lightly. "Impudent. You have always been my daughter. As a mother, what I hope most is for my child to be happy. No matter what choice you make, I hope you are happy." I started to snatch customers with Miguel unscrupulously. At first, relying on what I learned at the Shen family and adding different highlights from the Shen family, I was really glorious for a while. For a time, Miguel had a headache. When the trend of emerging industries passed, various problems emerged. The defect of our team's lack of experience surfaced. Miguel cut off the supply at the bottom of the pot. After all, he was still one step better. On the day when my company was merged into the Shen family, I sat face to face with Miguel again. At this time, I was mature and capable. After going through the business world, my temperament was much more stable. Miguel had a sharp eye and was merciless in poaching my people. After fighting with him for so long, I actually felt a sense of mutual appreciation. It was as if we had competed on exams and debated passionately. At this moment, although I lost, I know that on this table, Miguel and I are equal. Miguel absorbed my team. I took the shares and was relaxed. Standing on the rooftop of the Shen family again, and looking down at Feng Cheng, I couldn't help but sigh that I am really reborn now. Miguel brought juice and coffee and let me choose. I took the juice without hesitation, and took the initiative to joke about our previous relationship. "I used to see that you liked coffee, so I followed and drank it too. Now thinking about it, that thing is very bitter. It's purely suffering for no reason." Shenxia and Bai smiled. "What are you going to do next?" He leaned against the railing facing me. Seemingly casually, the slightly trembling fingers exposed his concern for the answer to this question. "To be honest, you are really not suitable to be a boss. Your vision," seeing me glaring at him, the very bad, on his lips changed to average, after a turn. Seeing that he was sensible, I couldn't help but chuckle. Miguel relaxed. "I actually thought about not competing with you guys. Heat whirled the cup. But I think what you should expect is a real opponent." I leaned against the railing like him with a smile. I was too arrogant. I thought that after handling so many projects at the Shen family, I could replicate and create another empire. It seems that there is a difference between a general talent and a leadership talent. "Oh, by the way, don't send flowers to my house anymore." When Miguel heard this sentence, he quickly lowered his head. After a long time, he said in a low voice, "Oh." I looked at him with a smile. Looking at this once gold and lofty flower, in order to wait for me. He folded roses with napkins in disregard of his image by the Streeltwide. He began to share his life in detail. He would come downstairs of my company during meetings to have a meal. He would excitedly pull me to choose newborn kittens. His sleep got better. Because an employee secretly told me that he recently stopped researching coffee and started drinking milk tea instead. I glanced at his little belly. I wonder if his abdominal muscles are gone. I was lost in thought for so long that I didn't notice that Miguel was crying. He read in his eyes an aggrievement. "So, Johnny, are you still not choosing me in the end? I hurriedly explained. No. I just realized the problem of Shen's transformation. Mariam helped me contact a foreign school. I'm planning to go abroad for further studies. Miguel sniffed. And then? I smiled and tapped his shoulder with my finger. Then I don't know if President Shen still needs a financial officer. Miguel turned from crying to smiling. Embarrassed lie. He turned his face away so that I couldn't see him wiping his tears. I bent down playfully and looked. Oh, you really cried. Miguel put his arm around my waist and buried his head beside me, muttering his confession. Listening to him ask wetly if I would be his girlfriend. I didn't show it on my face, but I was uncontrollably excited inside. A boy's tears are a girl's stimulant. Well, it depends on your performance. Miguel took out his phone and muttered. Okay. She agreed to be my girlfriend. Next step. Propose. So fast? I had only been Miguel's girlfriend for 3 days when I was taken to the proposal scene. When I nodded, Shen's father let out a yell first. You have a wife now. But I don't have a wife anymore. Mariam rolled her eyes and left, leaving Miguel and me looking at each other. Under my strict prohibition, Miguel finally agreed to hold the wedding later. But before I went abroad, he still used the tear tactic to force me to get the marriage certificate. Who understands? When he cries and I hug him, I'm really satisfied. On the second day after I returned to China, Miguel couldn't wait to hold our wedding. Miguel arranged every detail of the wedding planning. It was all designed according to my preferences and together with Mariam. When we were taking our vows, Miguel cried. The whole audience was laughing, but I was looking at the man in front of me seriously. Afraid that he will change? I'm not. As Johnny, I invite Miguel to enter my life.